Very good evening, everybody. I am Asmita Atre. I am a DLife.in certified metabolic health consultant. My background is in engineering. I'm a BTech, master's in mechanical engineering as well as engineering and technology management from the universities based out of USA. I started learning metabolic health about 8-9 months back from DLife.in. And today I'm hosting a session on Heal from Within, Thrive Through Menopause. So menopause is a phase in every woman's life. So I will take you through this presentation in two parts. First, let us try to understand how woman's body is composed by nature. Let us try to understand the various organs as well as the hormones that play a very important role in woman's life. Uh, as the topic suggests, it involves menstruation cycle, and the menopause it basically means end of menstruation cycle. So, first thing in the today's presentation to understand is how menstruation cycle happens. So phase one of the menstruation cycle is typically of first 5 days, where the uterus and the uterine lining breaks down, and that is when the periods are observed. The second phase is a follicular phase. Once the uh, uterine lining is uh, thrown out, the follicule the follicles start developing in the ovary. About about time of 5 days, the follicular phase takes place. In this phase, the uterus lining keeps growing in presence of rising estrogen level. Uh, at the peak of after 10 days after the menstruation begins, what you have is a estrogen peak, and that's the time when the estrogen of the ovulation occurs. That is ovulation phase. This typically lasts for until 18th day in your cycle, and the phase 4 is luteal phase, in which there is a progesterone surge. The detailed overview of how the hormones keep rising and how the hormonal changes occur, we will come to that in the next slide. So the menstrual hormones, have a look here. Yeah. So the primary follicle is a mass of cells in which the ova is surrounded by granulosa and theca cells. So as the granulosa and theca cells keep growing, they give a signal to uh, the pituitary gland to release a follicle stimulating hormone, which is called as FSH. In the presence of FSH, the primary follicle grows into secondary follicle. As the secondary follicle grows into a more mature secondary follicle, an enzyme called as aromatase comes into picture. So what it does is it converts androgens, which are two hormones, essentially testosterone and androstenedione, into estrogen. So the levels of estrogen keep rising during this phase. What does estrogen do? Estrogen starts preparing the uterus lining for implantation. What happens is about 10 days after uh, after the follicle starts maturing, rising levels of estrogen stimulate the pituitary gland again to release something called as luteinizing hormone. What does luteinizing hormone do? It is the essential hormone that stimulates the growing secondary follicle to actually ovulate. And the ova is released into fallopian tubes and it is carried to the uterus for implantation. After the ovulation happens, the remaining mass of the cells is called as a corpus luteum. It's a temporary gland in every woman ovary. What does corpus luteum does? So corpus luteum, or what is called as CL, releases a hormone called as progesterone. So as the name suggests, progesterone name comes from progestation. That is a hormone that supports implantation and the potential pregnancy. After the progesterone is secreted, the balance of the corpus luteum regresses and it gets absorbed back into the body. And this cycle keeps repeating every month. So in the process, when the granulosa cells and theca cells initially start maturing into forming a secondary follicle, only one follicle is finally matured to generate a ovulized ova. Rest of the follicles are either absorbed or they are destroyed. So that is how the ovarian reserve keeps on getting depleted every month. So let us have a look at how the hormonal surges keep occurring during the entire cycle of 28 days, which is a normal menstrual cycle. In the first phase of 7 days, what you see here in the graph is rising levels of estrogen marked by the red curve. This also means that the follicle stimulating hormone keeps on depleting in this entire process. What happens next is when you really reach at a proliferative phase, the estrogen surge drops and there is a sudden surge of luteinizing hormone, which is a much bigger surge than what the estrogen surge is, and the ovulation actually occurs. It is the most important step in the menstruation cycle, that getting a luteinizing hormone surge. If that doesn't happen, the follicle which is growing inside the woman's ovary just keeps on getting bigger and bigger, and that ultimately leads to the formation of cysts. So the luteinizing hormone surge is the most important thing in the process of ovulation. The secondary, after the ovulation, what takes over is the surge of progesterone, which is very essential for the implantation of the uh, ovulated ova in the uterine lining. So if the implantation doesn't happen, then the surge dies down and the levels of the hormone reach to their lowest levels. And that is the point in which the new menstrual cycle starts in the next month. So this is how typically a menstrual cycle takes place. Now, here at this point in time, I would like to introduce you to two friends of menstrual hormones. As we just discussed, just imagine the group of 5 girls, follicle stimulating hormone, anti-Mullerian hormone. So, what does anti-Mullerian hormone do? If you remember the diagram earlier, when the primary follicle is developing, the granulosa and theca cells also release a hormone called as AMH. AMH is a hormone that is a marker of the ovarian reserve of any woman. So unless AMH is present, the development of follicle doesn't happen. So that is a very essential hormone in the development of a follicle. Third one, as we noted, is estrogen, luteinizing hormone, and progesterone. There are these two other hormones, leptin and insulin, which have a very important role to play in the menstrual cycle and its normal being. What does leptin do? Leptin is a hormone which is released by your fat cells. Basically, leptin signals the hypothalamus in your brain to dictate to pituitary gland to release the follicle stimulating hormones. So those people who have a leptin resistant may have disturbed cycle of menstruation. And the second hormone which has a very important role is insulin. What does insulin do? Insulin is a friend of enzyme aromatase. In presence of excess insulin, it inhibits function of aromatase. So insulin has to be in a very low proportion in your body so that aromatase can function properly and it can convert androgens into estrogen. So these are the 7 hormones which play with each other in harmony to have your menstruation done properly every month. Let us try to understand what estrogen is. Estrogen is not a one hormone. There are three essential hormones who are collectively termed as estrogens. Estradiol, or what is called as E2, is the most common and most abundant hormone present in most of the women of childbearing age. Estriol is a main estrogen mainly during pregnancy, and estrone is the only estrogen produced post menopause. And these hormones post menopause are produced by adrenal glands in collaboration with your fat cells and other estrogen responding organs such as breast. Primarily during your menstrual age, or estrogens are produced by ovaries. So I have highlighted two essential organs which are responsible for production of estrogens. One is the ovary as well as the uterus and other female organs, as well as adrenal gland. Adrenal gland sits as a cap on the kidneys, as you can see in the diagram here. How is estrogen produced? The precursor of estrogen is androgen, as I told earlier. Androgens are of two types, testosterone and androstenedione. In presence of aromatase, which is an enzyme, it's a enzyme that converts testosterone into estradiol, E2, which is the most dominant estrogens in your body, and androstenedione, which is aromatase, into estrone. What does enzyme aromatase do? Estrogens produced before and after menopause. Before menopause, ovarian aromatase produces most of the circulating estrogen. And after menopause, fat and muscle aromatase produce the circulating estrogen, which is predominantly even. Now, the local estrogen production also happens in the estrogen sensitive tissues, as I highlighted earlier. Which are those? Breast, uterus, vagina, bone, brain, heart, and blood vessels. It provides local estrogen in a autocrine fashion. As I highlighted earlier, insulin has a inhibitory role on aromatase. That is why it is very essential to maintain low insulin levels in your body. That is, remain away from condition like hyperinsulinemia. Having explained this, let us understand functions of estrogens. What does estrogens do in your body? Estradiol, as I said, it's the most dominant of the estrogens. It's essential for sexual development of girls in puberty as well as growth of uterine lining during menstrual cycle. It is the most important hormone for normal menstruation as well as it's a steroid hormone essentially. So it is important for the bone and cholesterol mechanism in your body. It regulates food intake, body weight, glucose metabolism, and insulin sensitivity. Estradiol is the best friend of insulin. It works with insulin and improves the insulin sensitivity in your body. Also, it stimulates fat cells to release leptin. So, estradiol, insulin, and leptin work in cycle together. Estradiol stimulates fat cells to release leptin. Leptin signals your hypothalamus to instruct pituitary gland to release follicle stimulating hormone, and the menstrual cycle is that is how maintained. Second hormone is estrone. It's the weaker form of estrogens. It is produced in ovaries and fat tissue. It has pro-inflammatory effects in your body, but it's in a very weak form. So uh, it's of a less concern here. Uh, the next and the third is estriol. It's the only hormone which is found in your body uh, during the pregnancy time. So it has anti-aging effects. It maintains vaginal health, elasticity of vagina, and the skin as well. Having explained this, let us come back to androgens. What happens is testosterone is the predominant of the androgens. Other androgens are androstenedione, dehydroepiandrosterone, which is DHEA sulfate, and dihydrotestosterone. The androgens are converted into estrogens. So this happens in presence of aromatase. If there is a inhibition on aromatase action, there is a surge in androgens and they are not converted into estrogens, which are responsible for females getting more feminine characters. So what happens is, in case of elevated androgen levels, women suffer from acne, missed periods, abnormal menstruation, excessive hair growth, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, infertility, obesity, ovarian tumors, and things like that. So, maintaining low androgen levels is what is most important. And to have that, one must have the aromatase action in place properly. And for aromatase to not get inhibited, what you need is low levels of insulin. Now, let's come to the causes behind various menopausal symptoms that women face as they age. What is menopause? Menopause is a totally natural process. It occurs when ovulatory and related ovarian functions cease. As I explained earlier, the ovary contains about 6 to 7 million eggs, which is also called as oogonia. During the fetal period, like when the uh, girl child is developing inside the womb, each primordial follicle contains single oocyte surrounded by granulosa cells. This also I explained already during the menstrual cycle. At the birth, the number of primordial follicles declines to about 1 to 2 million due to atresia. When a female child is born, at that time, out of the 6 to 7 million oogonia, only 1 to 2 million oogonia are left. The remaining oogonia die down during the process of fetus development. By the time this girl child reaches puberty, this child has about 3 lakh ovarian follicles. As she ages further, by age of 37, the number depletes to about 25,000. At menopause, few or almost no follicles remain. This is the process of graceful aging. As it sounds like a silo releasing the storage of grains, that is how ovaries keep shedding eggs every month until the menopause happens. The process of menopause, the loss of ovarian follicle leads to decreased production of estradiol and ovarian inhibitin. There is this one very important hormone that is called as inhibitin. What it does is it inhibits the action of follicle stimulating hormone. The development of follicle happens in presence of FSH, which is released by pituitary gland. So when the inhibitin is secreted by granulosa and theca cells, it starts uh, it starts inhibiting action of FSH, and that basically is very essential for only one follicle to finally get matured into uh, ovulating uh, process. So, in the process of when the ovarian follicles are reducing, the FSH surge still keeps happening because the body doesn't know uh, that the uh, decreased production of estradiol because of the deteriorating ovarian follicles. The response from the body is just increase follicle stimulating hormone. That is how body responds. When the estrogen is rising, body automatically depletes the uh, release of FSH. But when the estradiol is not released because of the loss of ovarian follicles, FSH keeps rising. And this also reduces the anti-Mullerian hormone. So AMH is a marker of ovarian reserve of a woman's body. AMH is produced by developing follicle and it arrests recruitment of follicles from the remaining pool of the follicles in the ovary. AMH concentrations decline with age and that indicates ovarian aging. So, as I just explained, hormonal changes that occur are changes in FSH, estradiol, inhibitin D, and AMH before or with the onset of menstrual irregularity on symptoms. Now, let us try to understand the role estrogen have on liver and gallbladder. Estrogen has a very protective effect on the function of liver. It inhibits formation and development of fibrosis, preventing fatty liver. It protects against fatigue by preventing mitochondrial damage and premature aging. Mitochondria is the energy house of any cell that we all know. It promotes a favorable balance between antioxidant and pro-oxidant states, reducing widespread inflammation. Liver is the most important organ which prevents the inflammation of various tissues and cells in your body. It aids breakdown and metabolism of fats in the liver. So what happens is estrogen and gallbladder basically together they maintain the balance of bile salts and cholesterol in the bile. It prevents formation of gallbladder stones and helps in keeping cholesterol levels in check. So with the loss of estrogen, all these functions are disrupted, giving rise to gallstones as well as fatty liver disease, weight gain, and symptoms associated with that. Secondly, the liver has a very important role with the proper functioning of thyroid. So, at the onset of menopausal conditions, because of the affected liver function, it affects the functioning of thyroid gland. About 70% of the T4 hormone is converted into T3, which is the active state of thyroid hormone in your body in the liver. So, with the deteriorating liver function, this function also gets affected. And because of this, we see the cases of hypothyroidism and weight gain and things associated with that. So premenopause, let's run through the various points highlighted on this slide, is the common time for development of insulin resistance and thyroid problems. Taxed adrenal glands and loss of estrogen play a very important role here. As I earlier explained, adrenal glands are the supporting glands which release androgens. These androgens are converted into estrogens with the help of aromatase enzyme, which is produced exterior to the ovarian cells, which I explained earlier by fat cells mainly. So, with the trigger of insulin resistance, function of fat cells is disrupted, and there is a lesser amount of androgen available. So the loss of estrogen basically and the taxed adrenal glands, these are the two organs which are essentially affecting the hormonal changes and leading to the thyroid problems eventually. So thyroid hormones and insulin resistance typically together have a effect on glucose metabolism. Development of insulin resistance is this is how it is linked to low thyroid levels. Gallbladder function. Low thyroid levels can impair the gallbladder's ability to contract. As I explained earlier, the bile salts together with estrogen function in maintaining gallbladder's good health. So low thyroid levels affect gallbladder's ability to contract. Therefore, the bile salts are released in a lesser proportion into the duodenum. This can lead to bile stasis and increased risk of gallbladder stones. So, by this time, you must have understood that the thyroid, liver, insulin, and estrogen are very essential for the proper functioning of these organs, that is thyroid and liver both. Liver and thyroid interaction. Liver converts about 70% of T4 hormone into active T3 state. Slowing liver function can slow down thyroid function. So this is how it enters into a vicious circle. because of the interdependence between thyroid, liver, and gallbladder. And this is the hampered thyroid function is the main cause behind weight gain during perimenopause period. Now let's come to the very important topic, that is insulin resistance, how it comes into play. Body's reduced responsiveness to insulin and the resultant elevated insulin levels in the bloodstream leads to insulin resistance. The primary causes are inflammation, stress, and chronically elevated insulin levels. So let's take a look at this circle, how it happens. Chronic consumption of carbohydrates leads to surge in blood glucose levels. With the rising blood glucose, pancreas is required to secrete more insulin. With the rising glucose as well as the insulin coming in, cells eventually start resisting glucose uptake when the glycogen stores are finally are full. Glucose is stored in our body in form of glycogen. Blood remains flooded with glucose, more insulin is produced, and finally a state comes in that the fat cells just shut their door and say that they say that I cannot accept any more glucose. That's the point in which you have elevated insulin levels in your blood as well as the glucose levels. And that is the point when cells struggle to release energy and the inflammation is promoted. At that point, carb cravings go up and you get into the circle of consuming more and more carbohydrates. That is how the insulin resistance sets in. So, as I explained, insulin resistance, therefore, is the home for various chronic disorders at this point. So why I have included these slides in the lecture for menopause is because estrogen has a supportive role with insulin. With deteriorating estrogen function, insulin resistance sets in if there is no proper dietary control observed during this phase of your life. So the common menopausal symptoms faced are vasomotor symptoms, hot flushes, sweats at night, urogenital symptoms like vaginal irritation, burning, dryness, dyspareunia, then urinary frequency goes up, psychological symptoms like low mood, fatigue, irritability, anxiety, also musculoskeletal symptoms like accelerated bone loss, disturbed sleep, lessened sexual drive, fatigue, headaches, impaired memory, impaired cognitive functions, etc. So, the hormonal changes which happen during the menopause, which are the causes behind the symptoms, are highlighted here. Estrogen dominance leads to breast tenderness, anxiety, heavy menstrual bleeding, low testosterone. You will be surprised to know that women body has a more percentage of testosterone than estrogen, but still substantial lower than her male counterpart. About 10% of a typical male has woman has a 10% of testosterone than what a fully grown adult male has. And that is the most important hormone in maintaining the energy levels, good mood, cognitive abilities, uh, and maintaining your weight and muscle mass, as well as bone health. So the low levels of testosterone just disrupt all these parameters. Low estrogen and low progesterone together lead to hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, trouble sleeping, irritability, brain fog, etc. Uh, the tests typically for predicting the onset of menopause, elevated FSH, depleting levels of estrogen, depleting progesterone levels, depleting anti-Müllerian hormone levels, thyroid function tests, HbA1c and fasting insulin, depleting luteinizing hormone test, gradually depleting testosterone. HSCRP is an inflammatory marker. Complete blood count and metabolic panel, various nutrition markers such as vitamin B12, D3, and minerals such as zinc, magnesium. That cycle map, it's an expensive test and it is not very readily offered anywhere here. It's a urine test in which the urine is dried and various minerals and hormones present are basically tested. So, to cut the long story short, there is no one perfect test to actually predict menopause. So, it has to be coupled with symptom tracking, cycle tracking, and the age to get you a proper insight into the onset of menopause. Typically, any midlife woman should go ahead with a general health assessment, blood tests, as I explained earlier, then body anthropometric tests, in which weight, body fat analysis, typical body composition, muscle mass, lean muscle mass, everything is measured. Abdomen and pelvis USG, mammogram, cervical screening test, and definitely consultation with gynecologist and physician as per requirement and the symptoms that you are facing. This one, no woman with who has a onset of menopause should never avoid a general health assessment test. Having said that, here are a few tips of thriving through menopause. The first thing is indulging into species specific nutrition. By species specific nutrition is, I mean is a nutrition which is suitable for a human being. Human beings are and their digestive system is evolved to indulge into low carbohydrate, moderate protein, and high fat diet. How does that help? Basically, low carbohydrates trigger lesser insulin response in your body. Lesser insulin levels maintain the proper functioning of all the hormones which respond well to the low levels of insulin, as we just saw in the earlier side part of the presentation. Low insulin means good response to her aromatase, means good levels of estrogen, means good functioning of liver, and the liver is the most important and vital engine that drives your entire metabolism and the other glands and functioning of your body. That is how the species specific nutrition is very important to indulge into with the onset of menopause, particularly to prevent insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a condition in which a body can stay without getting any symptoms for more than a decade. That's why the insulin resistance has to be predicted with the help of blood tests, and proper care has to be taken with a proper species specific nutrition. What does dietary intervention do? It particularly in case of menopause. As we just saw, the liver function keeps on getting deteriorated because of the low levels of estrogen. That is a perfectly normal process. So it is our duty to include liver supportive foods in our diet, which means avoid refined carbohydrates and sugars, avoid overeating and snacking, indulge into adrenal supporting foods and activities. I will come to this part of what are those adrenal supporting activities later in this presentation. Also, preserving gut health by avoiding inflammation inducing foods. That is, staying away from alcohols as well as other inflammation causing foods is a very essential step at this point in the life of any woman. And the lastly, intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting has a huge benefit, as we all know. Basically, fasting helps liver detox your body, that is, get rid of all the toxins and unwanted uh, metabolites from your system. The adrenal supporting activities are stretching exercises like yoga, pilate, breathing exercises, ankle weights while walking, strength training, core strengthening, and aerobic exercises. What happens is with onset of menopause, women start to lose the strength in their muscles, bones, and their energy levels. So it is essential for a woman to engage into resistance training, particularly to prevent her muscle mass from depleting, because unless the muscle mass is preserved, your fat cells cannot function properly. And if the fat cells cannot function properly, no aromatase, no insulin sensitivity, and without the hormones functioning properly, the liver cannot function. Therefore, engaging into fitness activities, no matter what your lifestyle is currently, is the most essential thing in this phase of life. Also, the core strengthening exercises help build the strength in the uh, muscles of your stomach, which is essential to prevent a prolapse, which is one of the very commonly observed condition post menopause, because and that happens because of the severe loss of muscle strength in your stomach. So engaging into the strengthening of all the muscles in your body becomes very important. Wellness, uh, as we just saw that because of the hormonal fluctuations, you start losing cognitive ability. So it is essential to engage your brain into activities which stimulate your brain functioning. One few of them I have listed here, that get into some kind of art or meditation, reading, relaxing, solving puzzles, social engagement, because each of this wellness activity triggers different centers in your brain, and that have a very important effect on release of uh, stress causing hormones such as cortisol, adrenaline, which have an impact effectively on maintaining good health. So as we discussed, three essentials of metabolic healing: sleep, diet, and exercise. Sleep basically has a regulatory effect on your body, uh, that is maintaining the good levels of night nighttime hormone, that is melatonin. Melatonin has a calming effect, as well as it has a important effect in reducing blood glucose levels. Therefore, getting good night sleep is very important. That also means that uh, having a and maintaining good circadian rhythm is a important thing in maintaining the balance of nighttime hormones. Diet we just saw, and the exercise. So these are the three essential steps of metabolic healing that one has to engage into with the onset of menopause. uh, I get my training from dlife.in, which is founded in 2014 by respected Anup Singh, who is a IIT Roorkee silver medalist. DLife is India's first, biggest, and the only award-winning low-carb platform. It has about 3,000 plus success stories of remission of various lifestyle disorders, with 5,000 plus lives changed every year through DLife coaches. DLife makes the biggest platform in the world. Uh, Also, it is India's only CPD-SO UK accredited course with global biggest 60 CPD credits. So essentially, if it's Indian low carb, it's dlife.in. Uh, that brings me to the end of my presentation. Uh, I would here like to introduce two special guests on this session today. Uh, Anup Singh, who is founder of DLife, and my friend, philosopher, and guide, as well as guru, and also Miss Ira Sahai, who is media and operations head of DLife. I'm honored to have both of them here today on this session. So I request both of them to just turn on their videos and say hi to the participants here. Hi, Ira. Hi,
Yeah,
Anup.
Asmita, I'm also, yes, hi. Wonderful session, very insightful, Asmita. And tell us, I mean, it's such a great takeaway. I think people who are watching it have got a very clear idea of what's going on, because that's a very critical stage of life where most women are confused. I'm sure, this presentation and this session will give a lot of women a lot of hope and insight, and it will help them sail through their, menopausal phase. Thank you for such a brilliant presentation.
Thank you, Ira.
Yeah, yes,
Would you like to?
Asmita, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. I mean, we are all impressed by the way, continuity of presentation and then speaking for so long. It's not an ordinary job to do. And I would only say, well done. And it's essentially a course material, if you ask me.
Actually, I was going
So,
to say that this deserves to be in the course, and not only the course, this deserves to be on the D Life channel as well. Of course,
yeah.
I mean, you have created this, but we would want to put this up for the benefit of our coaches, and we'll take a call on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ira. Thank you, Anup. I would like to make a mention here. D-Life has a huge discount going on for the diploma course in low carb nutrition and metabolic health. This course has changed my life permanently, my life as well as my family's life, and the benefits that all of us have been experienced. Most of the myths that I had learned about familial issues, so-called familial issues such as diabetes, are just busted with the knowledge that I gained from this course. So I would appeal all the participants of this course to definitely go and visit dlife.in or contact me to get the details of the offer that is going on dlife.in platform currently, and definitely take the course, join the course, and learn the what should I say, power of the biology, I would say, because it's not left to any interpretation or anything like that. It's purely the science and what biology has to offer to us. So um, it's a wonderful opportunity that one must take. So it's not about if you should take, it is only it's like when you should take, and the uh, offer is going on. So the answer to the question when is now. So if anybody has any questions, one can ask now.
Yeah, hi Asmita, this is Uday. One very basic question, because this is the first time I have been exposed to this topic. I want to know how long this menopause lasts.
Typically, a woman starts getting menopausal symptoms. As I explained, ovarian reserve starts falling after 40 years of her age. So the onset of menopause can trigger any time after 40, with the predominant symptoms occurring after age of 45. And the most of the hormonal tests that I explained in the presentation respond well if they are taken post 45 years of her age. So, and the actual process of menopause is completed by end of her age of 50, 52.
Okay, also, because it affects the forming of the eggs. So, till what age would a woman remain in the age where she can produce children?
I have seen cases where women have born and conceived successfully till age of their 45 also, but those are in rarity. What happens is with the aging process, the quality of oocytes starts depleting. So it is important that a woman conceives in a early uh, phase of her life. With the advancements in medical science, there is something called as egg freezing that has been in vogue these days. So what they do is they extract your egg at a time of ovulation. They monitor your menstrual cycle, extract the egg, freeze it in liquid nitrogen, and it is believed that the frozen egg remains in that condition for any amount of years. So, with that, one can bear a good child, but not naturally, because what one has to do with egg freezing is finally go with IVF. And it's my personal view here that even though you take help from the medical advancement, maintaining a good metabolic health still has no option for a good and healthy pregnancy. Because even if you go with IVF, the rest of the functions your body only has to take care of after successful implantation, even with egg freezing and followed by IVF procedure. So, to answer your question, a woman naturally should conceive in the best of her uh, fertile age, that is between 20 to maximum 35, not very late pregnancy. Late pregnancy is something a miracle, I would say.
Okay, and one last question. I don't know whether this is relevant or not. Nowadays, you are seeing many cases of these sex change therapies. So, if a person, biological female undergoes these therapies, what happens to menopause? Does it still occur?
Fortunately, I haven't studied this. And I'm not sure whether it is really normal to do something like that for a female. You are born a female, so preserve what you got from God, right? So I'm sorry, I really don't have answer to this.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hi, Asmita.
Hi.
I was just checking the dlife.in site and I came across keto diet as well. And I've been reading and hearing a lot about it. So could you please shed more light on the difference between low carb, high fat and keto and what is more advisable? Because what I've heard is keto is not really good for Indian bodies. So please try to uh, clarify this doubt of mine.
Sure. So basically, low carb diet is defined by 100 grams carb per day, and the keto diet is subset of low carb diet that is not more than 30 grams of carb per day by definition. Having said that, keto diet is a, I would say, therapeutic diet, which is important for somebody to take in who has uh, goals of, getting autoimmune conditions put into remission. And so, based on what your basically goal metabolic goal is, the diet should be recommended. So it is not something like, keto is not good for Indian metabolism or anything like that. D Life has more than 2000 recipes: veg LCHF, non-veg LCHF, keto diets, and various food options which are typically tailored for Indian taste to indulge into and take care of your prevailing metabolic condition. Here I will ask Ira to explain further because she's the most accomplished coach from D Life who has hundreds of success stories of remission of autoimmune conditions.
Yeah, so I will, Asmita, you are right. This is a misinformation. It is a myth, because the mainstream media is always spreading misinformation. And when you talk of mainstream dietary advice or mainstream medical advice, you see that it has largely been non-responsive in the sense that they cannot put diseases under remission. So we have thousands and thousands of success stories, being India's oldest, first, and the only award-winning low carb platform, also the world's single biggest low carb platform. So keto is nothing but a subset of the low carb diet, wherein, as Anup has pioneered the template of 100-gram carbs per day, because when he came onto the scene, Indians were not they didn't know how to do low carb, especially on a vegetarian Indian diet, which is largely grain based. So when you say carb knob has to be turned down, and if the diet is primarily grain centered, then it's very difficult. So most were aping the Western model of beef, bacon, eggs, the Western keto model, and calling it low carb till Anup came on the scene and D Life came on the scene. And that's when he gave the template of 100-gram carbs per day. Keto is nothing but turning the carb knob further down. Keto is magical like low carb, and keto has great evidence of being very, very effective in mental health conditions, even in cancers, in various types of cancers. And there are people in D Life as well who are on keto permanently, and great results. If you can sustain it, nothing like that. But you don't need to be in keto as such. You can also get the same benefits if you are in low carb, within the 100-gram templates. And therefore, the entire education, or the thing that we are talking about comes back to the point where, to counter all this misinformation, to counter all the health issues that you're facing, to counter a simple thing as diabetes. You've been on pills for 10 years, 20 years, 15 years. That's how we as coaches are handling people. When they've done everything, they come to us. And, within 2 months, 3 months, maybe 6 months, some people take a bit more time, but most of the people come off pills. And we always say, educate yourself. coming to a coach is very easy, and we'll be glad to take one-on-one. Asmita is there, I am there, but get educated, because as she said, if it's Indian Locab, it's dlive.in. This is the biggest course in the world, #1 rated by CPDSO UK. Learn about it. Once you learn, it is like being, uh, uh, the Midas touch of, healing. You take everybody off pills in your family. Your medical bills are literally zero. You know the low carb way of eating. You're always part of the D Life community. So I think the entire thing boils down to getting yourself empowered, educated through D Life. Yeah, Asmita. Thank you.
Thank you, Ira. Sarita, hope it answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Any more questions? So you have everybody has my number as well as email address. So even if you have questions later after the end of this presentation, you can always reach out to me. I'll be happy to help. Want to make a special announcement here today. Coincidentally, it's Ira's birthday as well. So on this group, let us wish her a very big happy birthday. So happy birthday, Ira. Have a great time and
Thank you.
enjoy your day, as well as I wish you a very happy and joyful life and great year ahead.
My biggest joy is to be in daily life. My biggest joy is to see people like you succeed. And it's a big honor, Asmita, to be called your guru. I'm very, very honored that you call me that. And I really wish you all the best. I wish you all the success in life. Thank you so much for wishing me. Thank you.
So thank you, Anup. Thank you, Ira. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this session. So since there are no more questions, I will end the meeting here. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for inviting us, Asmita. Wonderful session. And I think we'll think about, where to put this, and it's very academic, very insightful. Thank you.
Thank
You.
you. All the best. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.